Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel, taking you into the jungle, into the forest today, getting rid of some of the blue, which is what we're kind of going to do in this episode of Rebuilding Chelsea, where we're going to sell a load of attackers, we're going to sell some wingers, we're going to put some in the unsafe category and some in the safe category. This is where we're at right now with the series after we've dissected the central midfielders, be it both defensive and attacking at the club. And you can see that Kai Havertz was included in the midfielder video just so that this guy isn't a striker. I didn't even want to talk about Kai Havertz in the striking video today because there are so many attackers at Chelsea Football Club that we need to talk about. We need to talk Ziyech, Pulisic, Hudson-Odoi. We need to talk Noni Madueke, Mudryk, Armando Broja, Romelu Lukaku, Raheem Sterling, David Datro Fofana and Joao Felix. Those are the blokes we've got to talk about today. So if you're not yet subscribed to the George Benson football channel, this is episode 6 of the Rebuilding Chelsea series. Link to the entire playlist is in the description if you want to hear me talk about owners, managers, keepers, defenders, midfielders, and today, wingers and attackers. Before we start going into individual players, I think what we need to really understand here, at least this is from my observation, let me know if you think I'm wrong in the comments below. Since Eden Hazard, Diego Costa and Willian, Chelsea have not looked as though going forward we have any real identity and plan. It's all well and good when we talk about new managers coming in or managers that have been here and failed, and we talk about philosophy. We talk about identity. Chelsea have struggled through various different managers, even the successful ones, the Tuchels. Chelsea haven't been a free-scoring football team for a very long time. We have struggled to do anything other than cross the ball into the box. We've realised that Ben Chilwell and Reece James are actually the best attacking players at the club. Mind blown, okay? These guys are defenders by trade, and we've had to revert to a wing-back system to be able to give ourselves any chance of creating things going forward. This tells me, when we talk about these philosophies, identities, Chelsea are identityless when it comes to going forward. We've always been a team who, over the years, have been known to be either warriors at the back or at least resolute. Defensively, we've been fantastic, which is why in the defensive part of this series, I gave praise to what I've seen this season because, as much as it all looks like a lost cause, 11th in the Premier League, battered by Real Madrid, humbled and humiliated by City in 2 domestic cups, Chelsea defensively have been good. But as soon as the ball gets into the final third, it's become embarrassing. I could literally pick up some of these bamboo sticks and they would have more chance of batting the ball into the goal than I've seen this season from Kai Havertz up front, Lukaku before him, when he's now been on loan at Inter Milan and slowly is starting to do well, but we'll talk about Lukaku a little bit later in this video. Going to remind you of where we're at in the tier list right now, and in the next episodes I will be building my squad for next season, including the new signings. We'll talk about potential strikers today, but straight out the gate here, I am going to sell 3 wingers at Chelsea Football Club. And those 3 wingers are Hakim Ziyech, Christian Pulisic, and Callum Hudson-Odoi. First of all, with Hakim Ziyech. Hakim Ziyech is a niche player. He is one of those kind of caviar-like players where you might not like the taste of it or you might absolutely love it. For Hakim Ziyech, the good thing for Chelsea is there are many other top clubs in Europe that will see and identify Ziyech's style as something that fits them. So trying to sell Hakim Ziyech shouldn't be difficult for Chelsea. And from what we've seen from the last couple of windows where we wanted to sell him potentially, I don't think we're going to be trying to get back the 40 million that we initially spent. So if we can get 20 to 25 million for a player who, when he plays, does not look like he wants to be here, then good. Second of all, Christian Pulisic. This is going to upset some of you. I know that there is a large contingent of you that follow this channel from the US. I have wanted Pulisic to succeed so badly at Chelsea. There are times where I look at him and I think you're probably the most direct attacker at the club. You've got the potential to be able to take players on, but there's the output numbers just aren't there. Goals and assists wise, you can see it here on the screen, it isn't there. Plus he's injured all the time. And at some point or another, Christian Pulisic becomes a footballer where you stop buying into potential, and it's just simply, what does he offer to the team? Is it enough? Okay, well at Chelsea right now, when we can't score goals, we've got to call a spade here. Pulisic's not delivering for Chelsea Football Club. There is still resale value there for him. So as of right now, if it isn't going to be a loan, we've got to try and sell Christian Pulisic because he doesn't offer enough to this team. And I personally believe the necessary strength and physicality of the Premier League does not suit his game. It's why he was so good in the Bundesliga. It's far less intense physically than what we get every single week in the Premier League. The lower clubs want to break his legs, and quite frankly, the quality isn't there to be able to deliver against the big boys frequently and consistently. He's done well in big games before, Pulisic, but I just don't see the longevity. Callum Hudson-Odoi, this was supposed to be the loan. Send him to the Bundesliga, Bayer Leverkusen, a club known for developing players, and then either selling them to Chelsea, in the sense of Kai Havertz, or they start to build things, they get into the Champions League, then they sell a few again, and then the cycle continues. Callum Hudson-Odoi, I was buzzing for him to go to Leverkusen, but again, it's not happened. It's not kicked off. He started well, and then it petered out, and then at times he can't even get into the starting 11. Callum Hudson-Odoi can't get into the starting 11 for Bayer Leverkusen. He shouldn't be at Chelsea. Unfortunately with Callum, we've been watching him for years now. We have been waiting and waiting and waiting for this ticking time bomb, which is a phrase I often use with players with potential at Chelsea. But with Callum, I've waited too long. I'm sorry, and for me, it's over for Callum Hudson-Odoi. So what I've just done there is sold 3 players before we've even started talking about the ones I'm unsure of, or that I'm sure of because we've either signed them for big money or they're actually good footballers. Not saying that Ziyech, Pulisic or Callum Hudson-Odoi are not good footballers. I just don't think right now they're at the level where we can afford to wait for them to burst and bloom in their careers. And they've been at the club long enough for us to know, or for me to know at least, let me know your thoughts in the comments, that it's not going to happen next week. It's not going to happen next month. And Chelsea, in the predicament we're in, as I've said throughout this series, we have got to be brutal. And that is why I move into 3 players who are unsafe. In fact, no, we'll talk about the 3 players that are safe first, shall I? Noni Madueke, Armando Broja, and Mykhailo Mudryk. First of all, Armando Broja, the rumours are Chelsea want to loan him next season, and he's been offered to Sporting Lisbon. If we're loaning Armando Broja, I pray to everything holy in this planet that Chelsea do go ahead and sign a top striker in the summer, because Armando Broja is one of those players where if he can stay fit, I believe there is a really good, dogged, old school striker in there somewhere. And I think he needs to stay at Chelsea no matter what. He signed a new deal, and Chelsea, if we do bring in what we're led to believe a world-class number 9, there will be limited opportunities and nurturing back in from that injury. So Broja has to stay, but he probably won't be a key feature next season. Noni Madueke and Mykhailo Mudryk are 2 players that have been bought in for a combined total of 100 million, and so far we've not seen a goal for either of them. We've seen 2 Mudryk assists in the Premier League, but with both of these players, if they are nurtured correctly by the correct manager, and I do think Pochettino is great for both Madueke and Mudryk, then Chelsea have got 2 special talents. We've heard all about the potential of these 2, and I think between now and the end of the season, I want to see us trying to utilise this. I want to see both of these 2 in the starting 11s. I don't want to see little cameos at the end of matches for Madueke, because we've got Raheem Sterling. We're going to get on and talk about him in a moment. But Mudryk especially, I think the ceiling of Mudryk's ability, considering his attitude and his work ethic on the training ground and extracurricular gym sessions and all of this stuff, Mudryk can go to the very top. But with Chelsea, I bring it back to what we said right at the beginning of the video. In this rebuild process, it is absolutely essential that tactically we find a way to actually attack, because we are so blunt, we are nullified the moment the ball gets anywhere close to the final third of the pitch. That is an incredibly large problem, and in my opinion, it's the biggest problem at Chelsea Football Club, because 1 + 1 = 2. If you can't score a goal on a football pitch, you cannot get enough points and be in a position that Chelsea want to be in. Chelsea Football Club have scored less goals this season than we've played matches. We may defend very well, we may have got the third best defence in the Premier League, but we have almost got relegation fodder. It is relegation fodder attacking. It's shocking. Across the board, we need to try and figure out a way to do something completely different than just give it to James, give it to Chilwell, loop across in and hope for the best. And as well as that, when we've actually got the ball on the ground in front of goal, we've got to at least force goalkeepers into saves, and we have got to be significantly more clinical than we've shown all season, and this has been a product that has been building up now for a couple of years. I want to talk about Romelu Lukaku right now because apparently there is a pathway back into the Chelsea team under Maurizio Pochettino. Surface layer, I can understand it. Pochettino, he comes in, he's the new manager. Chelsea need a striker, but we spent 100 mil 2 years ago on Lukaku. Maurizio, what do you think of this big lump? Should we stick with him? I don't think so. I don't believe he'll say yes. I really don't believe he'll say yes, but fair enough. You want to give Pochettino the reins? Give him the chance to work with what he's got before we start spending hundreds of millions on other strikers. Aubameyang, adios, mate. It's been lovely seeing your Lamborghini, but I don't even live in Cobham, so I don't even see your Lamborghini. So for me, it's pointless. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang's transfer to Chelsea has been a disaster. Move on, get out the club. 3 players who are unsafe before I start talking about what Chelsea need to do to sign a proper striker to fix this attacking problem. David Datro Fofana is unsafe because we bought him in January. We don't score goals, yet he does not play. Why did we buy him? This is a big problem that I've got. Some of these transfers from these new owners, what is the plan behind it? That is why Chelsea need to rebuild, because in the process of the last year, when we've been clawing to try and make sure that we don't let this sale of the club let Chelsea slide into the abyss, into the unknown, but in the process of doing that, there's been rash decisions. Not saying that Fofana's a bad footballer and he's not going to become a top striker. He might well do, but he's got to go out on loan. Because if he don't get a sniff now, and Chelsea go and spend 100 mil on a striker, he ain't going to get a sniff then. So he's going to stifle at this football club and be a wasted talent. So he's unsafe. Raheem Sterling is unsafe because there's a Raheem Sterling who played for Man City and a Raheem Sterling who's played for Chelsea. And those two players are not the same man, from what I've seen and what I believe. Sterling has been poor. Started well, scored a few early goals, and looked as though he was fighting for the dark blue shirt as opposed to the light blue shirt. As the season's gone on, he's one of the players where I look and I just think his head has dropped and he's lost interest. Sterling is used to competing, to win Premier League titles every single year. Did it at Liverpool, did it at City every season. So now he's in 11th, a mid-table battle doesn't seem to suit Raheem Sterling, and unfortunately, I'm sorry, that ain't good enough for me. So if Chelsea can try and recoup some of that fee that we've seen for Sterling and use the sale of Pulisic, Hudson-Odoi, Ziyech, and maybe a significant fee for a Sterling who could still attract to a Barcelona, a Real Madrid, a top club, then we can go out and also buy a top-class winger. Someone that can really put the rocket in the arse of Madueke, Mudryk, and make sure that these players know that just because Chelsea spent big money on them, they're not guaranteed to start because they're young, they need to develop, they need to learn. So Sterling is unsafe, and so is Joao Felix. I will leave a link in the description also to the video where I discussed Felix. I said it before the Real Madrid game, and everything that I said in that video still remains. I'm unsure on his output levels. I don't know if he's going to get the right numbers that Chelsea need. And with Christopher Nkunku, which is the next big part of this rebuild that we need to talk about, with Nkunku coming through the door, if Atletico Madrid demand 80 million euros for Felix, we have to be realistic here. We have got a goal scorer in Nkunku. His stats are significantly better than Joao Felix across all of recent seasons. And Joao Felix at this point is a attractive naked eye merchant, in my opinion. He has done a few lovely runs, a few lovely nutmegs. End product? No. Chelsea need end products. The whole point of this rebuild is to be brutal. You not scoring goals, mate. Okay, sorry, you're not worth 80 million as a forward for us. This guy, on the other hand, Nkunku's coming in, right, get him in the starting 11. He knows how to score. Put him in there, get him to link up with the other players who can deliver in front of goal, which leads me in to who Chelsea need to go and buy to rebuild this attack. Chelsea need a focal point. If Chelsea have a focal point in this team, immediately, the issues we've had with the wingers, these things start to become a little quieter in our qualms about the football club. Why? Because there will be someone eventually, I believe, that will put the ball in the back of the net at least 10 times a season in the Premier League. Let's start with that. Let's not hope for 40 goal a season Haaland, because that's outrageous. Let's start off with, put the ball in the back of the net for me, please. 10 times, and if it's only 10, please be good with your body. Link up like our man Didier Drogba could do. If he wasn't scoring belters and scoring goals in the box, he was offloading it to a Lampard. He was offloading it to somebody else. I either want to see Victor Osimhen sign for Chelsea. I've got big red ants on my legs. Like, oh my God. Victor Osimhen sign for Chelsea. Harry Kane sign for Chelsea. I would say Ivan Toney of Brentford, but with the big scandal going on regarding he's betting on football matches, what a plonker. Such a great striker, proper Premier League proven, and I think Toney would be amazing at Chelsea. But that big cloud about gambling, we'll have to wait and see. Dusan Vlahovic, outsider as well. Victor Osimhen is the best striker available on the market this summer. 100 million euros Napoli want, which is why Chelsea need to be brutal. There's a lot of dead wood at this club who, whether we see potential or not, the fact of the matter is there are some players that aren't made for the Premier League. There are some players not made for Chelsea. And there are some players that have been given so many opportunities, it's simply time now to say goodbye and get rid of it. I am stood around a load of cut down bamboo and coconut trees. People are cutting the dead wood out of this little forest. Chelsea need to cut the dead wood out of our football club, and that requires us to understand that our attacking identity needs to change everywhere. We have been so bad in front of goal this season that every time we step out on the field and we're one-on-one with a goalkeeper, I actually expect us to miss. I expect Chelsea players to miss when they're in front of goal every time. That is disgraceful. And when you look at the stats this season of all of these players that you've seen throughout this video, not a single one of them is good enough. And the one player that's been used as a striker more than anyone else, I included in the midfielders video because he's playing out of position. If between now and the end of the season I don't see every single one of these players I've mentioned in this video today playing in their correct positions, then we're wasting our time. We should have just kept Potter till the end of the season, or we should have bought in Pochettino or whoever the new manager is going to be now, because this rebuild starts with Frank and I need to see changes immediately. I want to see players like Madueke, Mudryk start in every game, because these guys are the future. These guys we've spent a lot of money on, and we need to be careful with FFP. We've spent the money, we've now got to back them. Whether they were the right signings or not, to judge them now in April after they signed in January, very unfair with all the chaos that's been going on. But they need to improve, Chelsea need to improve, everything needs to improve. And I believe the graphic you can see on the screen here, as we break this down, before we start talking about exactly who the signings are going to be and how we make that happen, that's in the next episode. This is where we're at. We have narrowed this squad down. I think I've sold like 8 or 9 players there, and there are plenty in the unsafe category where we're debating the right bids. Is it possible to get rid of this many players in the same position? And then we'd have to go and spend loads of money. I think Chelsea this summer, we've got to aim to sign 4 players, max. 5 at a push if we really get good offers for many of the ones on the screen now. But we've got to be careful, because FFP is coming to bite us, and we don't want to be left with another situation where we're trying to bleed in more names into the squad. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on this attacking episode in the comments down below. Go and check out all the other episodes in this series if you haven't already seen them. I'm got ants all over my flipping body, so I'm going to sign out now. Come on, you Blues.